So we've got a lot of people joining, so I'm just waiting, and we don't have any questions yet, but I'm actually going to start in with one. And I think one of the things that I think is really important is what you do to hit the ground running when things go back to normal. And what I always like to tell small businesses is the things that you do should be the things that you do the best. So when you're trying to get back to normal, focus on the things that brought you to the first place in your business. Take those by the hand and really drive those first. Then if you want to add some unusual things and different things based on how you've pivoted, that's fantastic. So I see that we have some questions, so I'm going to go. Hi, Jacqueline. Jacqueline just said hi, so of course I had to say hi to Jacqueline. So we've got a great question from Christina. Christina asks, how can I scale the clientele for a boutique marketing firm? We're virtually located in California, but too small to have an office right now. You know, Christina, that's a really great question, and a lot of people are dealing with that today. One of the best things to do that I always recommend is focus on groups like LinkedIn. Really build your network and join those groups and begin to use social media to advertise what you do. A lot of times people feel afraid because they're thinking, who's going to look at it? But there's a lot of groups out there that really focus on what you do. If your marketing really caters to a particular industry or vertical, I'd look for those groups as well. But thanks, it's a great question. We have a great question from Suman. Suman asks, what would your advice be for launching a luxury wellness product during this time? I'm planning on launching a pre-sale in June. You know, Suman, that's a really great question. And I actually think it's an interesting time because with this crisis, people are understanding that they really, really have to take care of themselves. So what I would talk about is really the wellness component, maybe not lean as much on the luxury, but really focus on the wellness, and that right now people have to take care of their mind and their bodies as well as their businesses. And that's really how I would focus on it. But thanks for the question, really appreciate it. So we've got something in the chat box, and again, really love the chat questions, but would ask that all of you please put them in the Q&A. But Ashley, hey, Ashley owns a floral direction studio in Atlanta, and she just wanted to say thank you. So thank you so much, Ashley. Really appreciate that. Kimberly asked a question. COVID-19 seems to be pushing small business to enable their digital presences. So many small businesses don't have them. What advice or resources do you have for going digital? Great, great question, Kimberly. In fact, almost 40% of small businesses do not have a digital presence. And there's a lot of great companies out there that we are talking to right now, like Shopify or Squarespace. And actually, Mastercard is looking to see how we can help businesses get online. But the process is pretty simple. What I would suggest is you take a look at some of these companies out there that actually build it, host it, and do it for you, because now's not the time to really try to invent those types of things. So there's really some great things out there today. But thanks so much for the question. We have a question from Miriam. Miriam has a great question, and I love this question. Hey, Ginger, I'm a mission-based for-profit interested in hiring a CEO. What tips do you recommend? You know, what I love about that question is, first of all, it's mission-based. You know, my recommendation, especially during this time, is there's a lot of people out there trying to help mission-based companies. I would take a look at other organizations to see people who might have worked there, and I would actually pull people that have the experience in the mission-based organization vertical that you're in right now. I think because of the fact that a lot of businesses are going to be struggling to get out to the other side of COVID, I think it's going to be really, really important to try to get as much experience as you can on the front end. And so, Miriam, I think that would be a great approach, and I really appreciate your question. We have a question from Anonymous. What can small businesses do in terms of loans, PPP loan, etc.? What do you suggest? I'm nervous, I will have to pay it back. Well, I think the great thing now is there's a lot of people out there trying to help. And I would say that if you're concerned about paying it back, one of the best things to look at is a PPP loan. that if you use it for employees and certain things in your business, those parts of the loans are forgivable. So I would suggest you go on some of the government sites. I would Google PPP. Actually, on May 5th, we're going to have a resource center that's going to include all that type of information. But if you go on the government.org sites and look up PPP, that'll give you the instructions that you need. So Michelle D asks a great question. Michelle, how did Mastercard quickly react and change their marketing for COVID? I've noticed other competitor large financial service companies act slower, which has started to impact their customer loyalty. You know, it's a great question. I'm really proud to be part of Mastercard, because what Mastercard is focused on now is really figuring out how it can help, which is why we partnered with Jacqueline and Create and Cultivate to do this digital summit. I think Mastercard has an underlying strong base of doing well by doing good. So it really wasn't a big pivot for us, because we always focused on that. And I think they've done an absolutely amazing job trying to provide resources, guidance, the $250 million that we've promised globally for small business. And so I think that that's really the key. It's not about selling product today, but it's how you can help and add value. Hopefully that helps. Thanks so much for the question. All right. We have a question from Andre. Andre asks, I would love your input about the role of credit cards such as Mastercard to push smaller big business and impact consumer behavior of cardholders to increase transactions, but also to offer an experience. I think that's such a great question. And one of the things that Mastercard has done is built out an amazing community around Priceless. Through Mastercard, we help organizations really building out priceless experiences. So it's not just about the credit card, but even recently in the past 4 to 6 weeks, we've had millions of viewers on some of our priceless experiences, which is watching our golf ambassadors golf and giving tips on that. We've had chefs. So I think it's about not just looking at the product itself, which in this case is a credit card, but how do you really drive behavior by building out experiences that people can remember? Because I think we all know, and research is showing this, that more and more people want great experiences and not just to buy things. So hopefully that helps, Andre. It's really a great question. All right, taking a look at some of these other questions. Christina, hi, okay, so you mentioned LinkedIn groups. Is that for networking with other marketers or for finding clients? As a firm, we're trying to land retainer high ticket clients. Actually, Christina, it's for both, but I was really thinking about it in terms of clients. So for example, let's say you did marketing for plumbers. There's a number of groups and communities on LinkedIn that are joined by plumbers, for example, or joined by broadcasters, or joined by different verticals. And that's why I think it's such a great piece. The other thing is associations. In one of my previous lives, when I worked with a lot of doctors, I used to partner up with associations like the American Medical Association to really reach a broader section of these people as customers. And associations are always looking for advice and guidance and things that will help their members. So hopefully that helps. All right, I'm going to move now to Layla. Layla's got a great question here. Layla works in an architectural and design firm, and I've been given the awesome opportunity to ramp up our online presence. How do you think we could connect with people beyond sharing photos of our projects? Well, you know, actually, Layla, just really what I was thinking about, I mean, one of the things that I think that's happened here is, since we're all more digital and visual, people are actually seeing how people work all day long. And I think it would be really neat to not just show projects of, you know, photos of your projects, but actually show the process, showing how you are really designing, how you're really drawing, and really pull people in so they can get a sense of not just the finished product, but how you develop the product. And I think that's really cool and interesting because, for example, I don't know how to draw, but I would love to see how experts like you do that. So hopefully that helps. We have a question here from Ashley. One of my favorite things is flowers. So I own a floral direction studio. I focus on floral services in the corporate industry. She asked, since my business is on pause, I'm wondering if I should pivot and start a retail flower delivery service or online workshop. Services are saturated, so is it worth making that initial investment? You know, Ashley, I think it's a really good question, and I have been amazed at the number of businesses that have pivoted from retail establishments to online. And the only thing I would say, I think pivoting and realigning how you're delivering your services is really important. I hesitate to recommend that people do major shifts or major changes. And I don't know that now is the time really to make that financial investment. But what I would say is, you know, really continue to build out your digital presence now, because even after COVID, I think that the new normal is going to be new. And I think there's a huge opportunity to do that. So hopefully that helps. Another question here from Anonymous. What industries do you think are going to boom post-COVID-19? I think it's a great question. Well, just personally, I can't wait to go to a restaurant. I can't wait to have a glass of wine with friends together. I think people that have really stopped doing things like going to the gym, you know, in-person yoga studios, I think people are starving for camaraderie and to bring things together. So I think those industries that are going to bring people back together, albeit slowly, are really going to boom. And I think there's going to be a lot of fledgling things that have developed. You know, I saw a really interesting thing about a great restaurant in Chicago that has now done meal kits. So I think there's going to be a really big shift. And those are just some of the things that I think. So we have a really interesting question from Charisse. Hi, Charisse. She says, thanks for your time today. I was in the process of launching a new brand prior to COVID-19, and I don't want to shelf my product because it's something I really believe in. What's your advice for being mindful of people's economic status during this time, but also trying to create a profitable company? You know, I think it's really a tough one right now. It's interesting, even at Mastercard, you know, we see that just, you know, people aren't spending as much money right now because they're being more careful. They're more secluded and into their homes. But I don't think it's a reason not to look at it. I think now's the time to think about those products that people will use and not necessarily shelving your product, but really thinking about how you would deliver it differently. And I think that's a really key focus. What this time gives us, it gives us a time to breathe, step back, and plan in a way that we wouldn't have had the time to do before. So I don't think that you have to give up your plans of creating this new company, but just think about the delivery and see if it makes sense during this time. And I hope that helps. I'm going to look over here at chat. Again, I want to remind everyone to please use the Q&A, but we do have some folks on chat. Obtainable luxury message is a good thing. People are looking to indulge, but at a price. I think again, it's a really good question about luxury goods. And I think right now people are looking to live their life in the simplest way possible. It's probably a bit of a difficult time to launch luxury brands. But some people, once things return back to normal, people will still like those things. I just don't know at this particular time if those things are going to move as quickly. So thanks so much for the question, though. So Andre asks a question, how do we measure creating experiences and if it's impacting revenue? I think that goes back to the question we talked about before. Mastercard and its priceless platform has provided amazing experiences for so many people. We don't do it to necessarily impact revenue. We do it to provide something to people, but we know that experiences do tie into what people want to do later. So if they have an experience of watching a chef cook, they may want to visit that restaurant. So I think there's a connection there, but I think particularly in this time, creating experiences is a fantastic way to go. All right. Michelle, Great question from Michelle that I want to answer now. What's your advice for nonprofits whose business model revolves around live attendance and events and are now forced to figure out a digital monetization model? Well, I have to use my good friend Jacqueline's model. She's not a not-for-profit, but man, has she moved her model. As everyone knows, Create and Cultivate has done an amazing job with events, and we have been a big part of that. The way that Jacqueline and her team have created this Digital Money Moves Summit is nothing short of amazing. And so I think there is a way to take events and move them digitally until things open up. I think you can provide tremendous content to help people really create opportunities for people to talk. I mean, even in the chat box, I'm seeing people talking to each other, answering each other's questions. So I think there's a huge opportunity with events right now with the digital component. So hope that helps, Michelle. Good question here from Lisa. What financial solutions like card products or offers should small businesses be looking for right now? Well, I think what's interesting is that if you look at credit cards right now, obviously they're to buy things, but what's really important now are some of the benefits that some cards have on them. So for example, some of our cards have free cyber protection. We have big partnerships with Intuit for accounting software, Salesforce for really great discounts on a CRM system for small business. So I think that a lot of the typical rewards and points and miles, those are really important. And I think that those are going to be great once we get out of this, for example, miles. But I also think there's some really great opportunities to look at benefits and tools that can help you as small business owners now run your business and stay steady and stable so that you can come out on the other side of this really, really strong. And I hope that helps. All right. Thanks, Lisa, for the question. All right. So there's a question, another question from Anonymous. What are some pricing strategies new entrepreneurs can follow during this time? You know, pricing is always a tough one, right? You can price based on what the market will bear, and that's really helpful if you have research and things like that. I think taking a look at how many of those things are out there, we all know the kind of supply and demand. If it's something that you're building that really is unique and there's not a lot out there, I think that really can impact pricing where perhaps you can charge a bit more. But if it's a commodity where there's a lot out there, pricing gets a little bit different. So I think it's really based on the uniqueness, the demand for the product, people's ability to buy it and to get it at this time. Those are three little pieces that hopefully they help. All right, taking a look at the chat box or some more questions. Let's see here. All right, I got a really nice question here from Melissa. Melissa asks, I work in the events industry and find myself currently furloughed. I'm really sorry, Melissa. I know a lot of people in that situation and I'm really feel bad for you. But I love your question because it's so positive. I'm hoping to make the most of this time by expanding my knowledge. I've always dreamed of starting my own business. Are there any tools, books, videos you suggest to help me learn more about starting a business? I have an educational background in PR, marketing, and advertising. Melissa, I love your question. My very, very favorite book to start a business is called The E-Myth. It's a very short book. And here's what it talks about. It talks about that people go into business many times because they're passionate about something. They might be passionate about architecture or marketing or plumbing or baking. But when small business owners actually get into a business, they don't necessarily get into it to deal with spreadsheets and budgets and raising money. And so what the E-Myth talks about is really being able to zig and zag between your passion as well as the things that you don't necessarily know. So I hope that helps. I really wish you great luck, Melissa. I love your positive nature, and I think that now is as good a time as any to think about really reaching for your dream. So thanks, and I really wish you good luck. Just a shout out to Ashley again. Thanks so much for just saying, hey, it's wonderful. I think it's great, the response that we're getting here. We've got a really good question from Dominique. Dominique says, I'm a strategist and process consultant for working mom executives and mom business owners. Do you have advice on how to pitch leading training sessions for employee resource groups within corporate companies? I think that's a really great question. And I think some companies are really set up, big companies like Mastercard have fantastic training groups, really great employee resource groups. What I would tell you is that small businesses do not have a lot of resources. They don't have chief marketing officers, training officers. And so as you think about pitching these sessions, I'd really reach out to those businesses that maybe have been struggling the most. And as things come out on the other side, build your plans for those smaller companies that may not have these resources, but may have to jumpstart their businesses, bring back employees that have been furloughed, create motivation, and also retrain people. I think that could be a really great opportunity for you, Dominique, and I hope that helps. Hey, shout out to Victoria. Victoria's joining from London over the pond, so it's really great to see you. It's great to see we've got some people over there. Someone asked me, Neha asked me to repeat the name of that book. It is called The E-Myth. And I can't remember the author, so oh well. Been a long week, but yeah, it's called The E-Myth, and it's really, really a great one, and I really encourage you all to read it, and it's pretty short as well. We have a great question from Danielle. Danielle asks, first of all, thanks for your insightful thoughts. My pleasure. This is like one of the best things I can do to help all of you directly. With the government spending a lot of its funds on COVID relief, how do you think that will impact the landscape of industries that are largely impacted by government funding, such as construction in New York City? You know, here's what I think. I think that a lot of money has absolutely been diverted to COVID just because it has to be. You think about what is going on with healthcare workers, and you think about what's happening, really just solving some of the problems logistically to get all these people safe, to keep people safe, and then to help get them better when they're not. I do not feel that this is going to be permanent. I feel it's going to be a new normal, and all those things, the infrastructure, like construction. My daughter is in the arts. She works for a fantastic museum in Chicago, the Museum of Modern Art. Those things are going to come back, and I do believe that ultimately funding will come somewhat back to normal. But I do think that the new normal is making sure we're much better prepared this time than we were before. But I do really feel that we are going to get back where the spending in some of these really key areas is not only desired, but necessary. All right, I'm taking a look to see. I think we have a little pause in our questions. So what I'm going to do is talk about a question that I get a lot of. I need a mentor, someone to talk to for advice through all of this. What do you recommend, and how do I go about finding the help? Well, there's a couple things. First of all, in our research, what we find is that small business owners really want to talk to other small business owners. So what I have found is people are amazing. If you see a business that you've admired, reach out to them. Reach out to them on their Facebook. And I think reaching out to people during this time, people are willing to help. So I think that's one really good way. The other thing is I couldn't think of a better way for mentorship than organizations like Create and Cultivate. They are built on that model. The work that they do to bring together not just folks like myself and some of the amazing speakers that are here today for all of you, but they also bring together groups of entrepreneurs that are very focused on the same thing, doing well by doing good. And we're really excited about our partnership with Jacqueline, because one of the things that we are going to be doing with them is really continuing to build out our mentorship program. And we also work with an organization called Hello Alice to build out communities. There are a lot of resources out there where mentorship is available, and I strongly encourage that. There's also some great organizations called Small Business Development Councils. Those are organizations in just about every town that offer free advice and guidance to small business owners. Again, they're small business development councils. I encourage all of you to reach out to them. They are at the ready. I also had a wonderful call yesterday with Operation Hope. So there's so many government as well as private non-for-profits that are out there to help you immediately. And so I suggest that you really go to those. And I think you'll find that there's a lot more resources out there than you've even thought. So I have another great question here from Andre. I love talking about Mastercard. Can you tell us Mastercard best practices during this time? You know, I think there's a couple. One is to not do anything different than we were doing. We have always been a doing well by doing good company, and that is more important than ever. It's partnering with organizations like Create and Cultivate that are there to help small business. It's partnering with government organizations to help them with all the great things that are being done to help consumers and small business through this. I think partnerships are critical, but also using the tools and the solutions that we've always had and making sure that we're helping people to know about them and to position them, such as the things I brought up before, like our current partnerships. The focus that we have on providing free cybersecurity for 3 months in terms of assessing your cyber prowess right now and also resolution, and then offering free local market intelligence, which helps you if you're a retailer and has a storefront. So I think it's do the things that you're good at, keep doing those, and keep sticking to your values. I think that is what really continues to drive our company. So we have a really good question here by Emily, and it's really a follow-up on Dominique's question. Since I'm wondering something similar, would she change or lower her pricing so smaller companies would be able to afford her services? You know, I think that's a great question. I don't know. I think, Dominique, I would love to get your perspective, and if you put something in here, I'd love to give it to you. But I think we all have to be pretty realistic that if you're going to work with smaller companies, there might have to be a change in your pricing. But if you're a new company and you're just starting out, you want to build a reputation. You want to be able to build a following so that people can say that you do great work. And so sometimes in the beginning, it's about really getting out there, getting the jobs and doing a good job, and then building your clientele from there. So hopefully that helps. We have a good question here from Anonymous. If you're a smaller company, how do you suggest approaching larger companies that have impact to partner? For example, what does Mastercard look for when looking for partnerships? Well, I would say the number one thing we look for is we really must have a company that shares our values. You know, we have very strong opinions on the importance of doing well in our society. Our CEO, Ajay Banga, lives that every day. And so we want to make sure it's a company that has those same kinds of values. I think it's a company that is scalable, that can actually work with us on a whatever scale that we need to. And it's also a company that really aligns with our brand and aligns with the creativity of our brand and what it means. I think all those factors went into the partnerships that we have with Create and Cultivate. All those things match, aside from the fact that Jacqueline's just a really neat person. But I hope that answers your questions. I'm going to look to another question here. Bear with me a minute. I think we're at a little lull with some of the questions coming through. I want to just maybe go into another question that I think is really important. With the rollout of all these relief programs, there's been a significant spike in fraud and cyber hacking. How can I protect the cybersecurity of my business? You know, that's a really great question. Our research has shown us that about 80% of businesses really don't have protection against cyber attacks. And one of the things that we try to do is provide tools and resources to make sure that you as a small business are protected. So we are offering 3 months of cyber protection, which is actually to assess how safe your business is, and then also provide you know, some of the resolution if there's a problem. But what I find is that more and more businesses go online digitally, I think the focus on cyber is critically important because it's not just the big companies that are being attacked today. In fact, a lot of these bad actors, as we call them, are really going after the most vulnerable. So I would really encourage all of you to think about that as a very important piece of what you do as you're setting up your company digitally prior to make sure that you're all set when that happens. Let's see. I'm looking here for questions. Yeah, here's another question that that I have that I think is pretty important at this time. What are some of the resources or government agencies that I can turn to? I somewhat answered that question before, but you know, I think that there's a number of organizations out there that people think about when they think about the government, like the SBA. And I know right now the SBA is working really hard on some of these PPP and lending programs. It's a pretty tough time for everyone in that space. And there's a lot of banks and fintechs and the SBA that are working really hard. But I also think a lot of small businesses don't really look within their own community. A lot of communities have really built some excellent organizations. For example, I'm on the board of a company called WEDC, and it's an economic development council that's local to Westchester County, New York. And they have amazing services for entrepreneurs, particularly female entrepreneurs, and it's a local organization. And so I would encourage all of you to really look within your community. I think there's a lot out there, and a lot of people miss that because they think it has to be really a major, major government organization. So that's something I think is really important. Let's see. I just want to give everyone a reminding it's 4:03. We've got a lot of people on the line. So please continue to send your questions in. I'm trying to answer them as quickly as possible, and also giving shout outs to people as well. So here's another really great question. Since a lot of small businesses are operating very lean right now in terms of staff and budgets, what are 3 things you'd recommend to prioritize? You know, I feel so bad for all of you during this time, because not only do small businesses have a lack of resources normally, but particularly with COVID, those of you that have had to furlough or lay off employees. But the 3 things I think you have to focus on: number 1, your customers. Understand what they're dealing with right now, and understand how you can deliver your product or service to them so that they can still use it. Use myself as an example. We live in a small community outside of New York. There's a lot of restaurants that we frequent that are very small, that are really in-person restaurants, but a lot of them have pivoted immediately in terms of changing their menu, scaling it back, and doing a carry-out service. So number 1, think about your customers and what they would do and what they need. Number 2 is your spending. It's critically important that with money like it is, that you're focusing on things you need to spend on that are critical at this time. One thing I would say to you during this time when you may or may not have more time, it's a great time to think about whether or not you are on an accounting software package. We know many small businesses are still using Excel, and can you use this time to focus on making sure that the way you manage your cash flow, the way you monitor money coming in and going out is really sound. So I think that whole financial management component is really important as well. And then the third thing, but not necessarily in this order, is focus on your employees. Whether or not they're furloughed, keep in touch. You know, I'm very lucky to have a boss that reaches out every week with a letter to make sure, even though we're all working from home, that we're all doing okay. And I think that constant communication, if they are getting things going and doing great jobs, even throughout this crisis, high five them, call them, talk to them. So hopefully that helps, but those are really some of the things that I think are really important right now. And I know that time is precious for all of you. I'm going to look over here in the chat and see what we have over here. Bear with me a minute here. Oh, this is excellent. This is from Soledad, who's actually calling in from Peru. Hi, Soledad. I hope things are going okay for you over there. Thank you for your time and for giving amazing advice. Is Mastercard having these types of partnerships worldwide? I have a similar business like Create and Cultivate, and I have a following who are women entrepreneurs. Well, Soledad, I would tell you what, if you can reach out to me after this, we have a lot of colleagues throughout the globe that are actually focusing now on women entrepreneurs, and they are looking for partnerships. So please reach out to me, and I would be very, very happy to be able to introduce you to some of the right people. If you have a business, anything like Create and Cultivate, it's going to be a winner. So thanks a lot for the shout out. I really appreciate it. Looking back over here at some of the questions. This is a really great question from Tiffany. Are you seeing any underserved industries that can benefit from having small businesses offer a product or solution? Wow, that's a really good question. You know, what I would tell you is the businesses that are really suffering right now are obviously the in-person businesses. Restaurants are suffering. A lot of the retailers are suffering. You know, one of the areas that I'm really concerned about is just the wonderful small mom and pop boutiques that provide such fantastic products and services. So I think those smaller groups that are in businesses that have had to close, but are not the big companies, because so they don't really have a lot of resources. So I'd really pivot to thinking about what are the things they're going to need. They're going to need a lot of help with social media. They're going to need a lot of help in terms of digital focus. And I think those are some really good things that are important right now, marketing. So I think those are types of industries that we really have to look at. Have a really good question from Lindsay. What would you suggest for businesses that don't have a physical product? We're an event-based business that's on site. With shops and restaurants, you can purchase items, but we don't have anything like that to offer. What I would say to you, Lindsay, is you actually do have something to offer, and it's advice, and it's guidance, and it's connections. I think I keep referring back to what Create and Cultivate has done with this. But if you think about what they've done here, is that they are an event-based company, but they are connecting people. They are providing really strong advice, strong guidance, and really helping people, not just during the crisis, but as they get out of it. So I think that advice is as important a service as if you're selling hairspray right now. And I would really consider how you can connect with experts or people that can provide customers with the advice they need. Small businesses are really in need of advice and guidance right now, as you can tell by the number of participants that we have right here on this Mentor Power Hour. So I think you should look at the advice and the events that you can do to bring them to people digitally and provide that advice and mentorship. Hopefully that helps, Lindsay, but thanks so much. It's a really great question. All right, let's see. We have a little lull in questions. I'm just going to move over to the chat box here. Yeah, someone just brought up building a customer base and grow in the future. I do want to spend a little bit of time on that. You know, I think everyone's really focused on COVID, but at Mastercard, we're not just focused on COVID, but we're focused on COVID. We're focused on when you can come out of COVID, and then we're really focused on the recovery phase. So as all of you think about your product and service, it actually feels really good to sometimes get out of the COVID mindset and think about the recovery phase too. So what will your new normal be? Take a look at some of the data that's coming out. Take a look at some of the things that people are saying in terms of what the new normal might be. Allow yourself to pivot and think about new product development or new service development based not so much on what's happening now, but what's going to be happening. And I really, when I talk to small business owners every day, I encourage them to use the time that they have to think ahead. So I think that's really important, and really appreciate the thought that was brought up on chat. I'm going to look on some of these other points. Let's see. Well, I'm going to give a shout out to Amu. Amu has a hand block printed home decor brand, which is inspired by India, but actually made in the USA. So Amu, thank you. And I think that's a great thing because people are really holing up in their home right now. I mean, people are nesting. I mean, I'm cleaning a lot, but people are nesting. And I think home decor and things like that, I think as people have gotten more used to spending time at home and have had time to see the kind of worn pillowcase or the worn curtains, I think that home decor is going to be a really interesting area. So I just want to remind everyone we're at 4:11 and we have till 4:25, so about 14 minutes left. So please feel free to send your questions in. I have a great question here from Anonymous. Oh my gosh, if you were to start a business today, what kind of business would it be? Okay, so I always tell my husband that if I won a lot of money, I would have a no-kill animal shelter. So this is not actually about making profit, but I would have a no-kill animal shelter that would actually serve all animals. And he laughs at me when I say this, but I would even have a section for bugs. But I would have different sections for animals and provide them with love and a new life and a second place to live. So that's what I would really do right now. I also love to cook. There might be a couple dishes that I might think about doing as a business, but I'm not really sure. But I really want the no-kill shelter. Another question from Danielle. What are your best tips at networking events to make connections? And what do you think upcoming networking events might look like? Wow, Danielle, that is an amazing question. So I am a networker at heart. You can probably tell that I like to talk and I talk a lot. I think one of the dangers that people find themselves in at networking events is they get so overwhelmed and they just see a whole sea of people. But what I really recommend doing is if you're going to a networking event, plan it out. Know exactly the sessions you want to go to and why. Take a look at the speakers. At the last Create and Cultivate that we did with Jacqueline, all of a sudden these people came up to me out of the blue and they said, Ginger, we've been stalking you since your talk. Would you spend a few minutes with us? They said, we were really scared to come up to you, but we wanted to. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is awesome. So we went and found a table. So really find out the speakers you want to talk to, the different events you want to go to, and make it a point to be proactive in those. The other question is, what do you think upcoming networking events might look like? Look, I think it's going to be a really long time before we're going to have networking events like we did before. I think that as the country opens, there's going to be a new normal in terms of keeping people safe all the time. I think there's going to be a huge push to digital. I also think there's going to be smaller events where there's not as many people, but really concentrated on very specific topics. But again, I do think digital, you know, look, when we heard that Jacqueline was going to be doing this Money Moves Digital Summit, I thought, how is this going to work? But it has worked in an amazing way, so it is possible. So Danielle, I hope that helps. But again, really encourage you to plan things out as you go to these events ahead of time. Let's see, Charisse, please let us know how to get in touch with you. I'm in the Latin American Mastercard market and would love to be put in touch with someone as well. Well, I would normally give my email, but there's lots and lots of people on the phone. So what I would suggest that you do, I'm very active on LinkedIn. I do respond quickly. Link in with me, Ginger Siegel, S-I-E-G-E-L. Once we link in, send me your information and I will make the connection for our folks in Latin America. I know Daniel very well, and I know he would be happy to speak with you. So hopefully that helps, Charisse. Let's see, we have about another 10 minutes. Another good question, how would you suggest a small agency could drive awareness of their capabilities for consideration by big brands such as Mastercard? Boy, do I wish my crackerjack comms and marketing group in Mastercard was here to answer this question. it's an interesting one, and I know that we get pinged. I get pinged every day by smaller companies who want to work with us, and I think it's great that people are pretty bold. They'll link in with me, and that's probably the best way. I will tell you that companies like Mastercard, as well as a lot of other great companies, tend to look at the brand. They tend to look at scalability. As I mentioned before, they tend to look at companies that stand for what we do. But there is absolutely no harm in reaching out, really connecting on LinkedIn, and then showing some of the things that you've done that actually could be used by a company like Mastercard. So, hey, Sharice, I'm glad you found me. I will accept your LinkedIn as soon as we're done. So that's great. Taking a look at some other questions that we have. This is a really good question. As a company that hosts events, what do you predict the future of sponsorships will look like for those relying on partnerships of events and programs? I think it's very similar to the other question. I think that coming out of this, money is going to be scarce, right? People are going to want to get back to normal, get their companies back to normal. And I think money that's going to be spent on partnerships and events like this are really going to be focused on things that will help their end users as quick as possible. Mastercard is a company that works through our partners like banks and fintechs, but our job is to put the wind at the back of our customers so they can help their end users, who are consumers, governments, municipalities, and small business. So we're going to look at partnerships like the one that we have with Create and Cultivate that is really going to set us up to help those end users. And so I think those are going to be the things that people are going to look for. All right, so keep those questions coming. It's 4:18 and we have another probably 7 minutes. So I'd love to answer more questions. I'm going to look here for some new questions that we have. I actually am very proud of myself that I'm doing this technology so well. Those of you that don't know me, I'm really bad at this, but I think it's going okay. Question from Carmen, who's chairing a women's event through Junior League next year, would like to connect with me. So Carmen, same thing, absolutely. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn and I would be happy to connect and talk more. This is a really good question. What's the most inspirational piece of advice you've ever been given? Well, I would tell you that I don't know if it's advice that I've been given or advice that I've seen, but I grew up in a household where both of my parents worked 2 jobs pretty much around the clock. And this is what I saw. And I knew that it was really important that I set myself up so that I never had to rely on anyone individually to support me, but that I could always support myself. And that I had to always focus on working really hard to make that happen. And that's advice that I got through observing, but I use it and do it every day and hope that my 2 amazing daughters continue to follow it because they work really hard as well. But thanks so much. It's a great question. Does Mastercard have any special programs for women-owned small businesses? Do we ever? We have an amazing priceless community for female entrepreneurs. We're working with Hello Alice to actually set up an online community. We recently had a tremendous focus in the New York Times and in New York where we featured women entrepreneurs. So take a look at our priceless community for women. It's an amazing endeavor. And part of the reason that we have really formed this relationship with Create and Cultivate is because our focus on women-owned small businesses is huge. Just a couple facts. Women-owned small businesses only get 2.2% of the venture funding, though they grow 5 times faster than their male counterparts. We certainly love businesses owned by males and others as well, but female-owned businesses is an enormous point of effort for us and continues to be. So I would encourage you to look at our materials, look at our website, look at our priceless community, and also the work that we continue to do with Create and Cultivate. And hello, Alex. Hello, Alice. So we have another question here from Amanda. As a company that offers luxury dog beds that have a long life cycle, how can I retain my customers? It's so funny that you say that, Amanda, because we actually were in the market for a dog bed because we got a new dog who's very little and she has to use our old dog bed as a ramp. So we're looking for a new dog bed. You know, I think it's an interesting question, and I think it speaks to diversification. I think it's either different types of dog beds, but how do you take a dog bed and diversify it into different areas? So for example, is there a way to build a dog bed for arthritic dogs who might need extra padding? Is there a way to have you utilize the work that you do now to manufacture dog beds, to manufacture other products for dogs? The animal, particularly dog industry, is a billion-dollar industry, and I think there's lots of opportunities. People, I know myself, we spend a lot of money on our dogs, and hopefully that helps. So we have another 3 minutes, and I'm just going to see. We have another really good question. Is Mastercard providing other means of digital mentorship? I love what you guys are doing. Actually, a couple things that we're doing. We talked a little bit about the Main Street Resource Center that we're launching on May 5th. That's going to have a lot of resources and information, not just of things we're providing, but others. And we're currently working on an approach to help small businesses actually get online. And there's also a lot of fantastic companies out there that do a lot of work in terms of helping with digital and social media. And we know that a lot of small businesses don't use social media because of the fact that it's hard for them to figure out what their ROI is. And there's some really great companies out there doing that. And thank you so much. I really appreciate that you love what we're doing. But for all of you out there, I cannot begin to tell you how much we appreciate what you're doing every day and how tough it is. So we've got another 2 minutes, and I'm just going to see if there's any more questions. You know, what I want to do is just take a minute. I have been absolutely overwhelmed by not only the number of people that have attended this session, the number of questions, but also the quality of the questions. I want all of you to know that we are pushing for you. We think about you all the time, and our work with Create and Cultivate is all about trying to build solutions, provide tools, mentorship. And all of you know that when you wake up in the morning and you go to bed at night, you are not alone. You have us and you have each other. And I hope that, that you all think about that. And I really want to wish all of you just the very best during this time. Look, this too will pass. You will come out of this on the other side strong. You may be more digitally savvy. You may be sick of cooking at home. But your business can come back strong with a new focus, a new vigor, a new approach, a new way for you to reach customers. And I hope we all will have a much greater appreciation for what small businesses do. They literally drive this economy. They employ about 70% of the people in the United States, and they really provide more than 50% of the GDP. So don't let anyone tell you that being a small business means you're small. Small business is big business. So with that, we're going to end our session. I want to thank all of you for everything that you're doing, and really hope that you have a great rest of your weekend. And thank you so much for joining.